Happy Monday! In this video, I'll be talking about a couple of really specific things that are going on in the opera at the moment. This week, we're getting to the end of Act 1 and preparing to start Act 2, and I'm freaking myself out a little bit. The end of Act 1 contains this really unusual, perfect little moment, and the music for it has to be exactly right. Of course, that means I just have to stop overanalyzing and just let it happen. I'll keep you posted. You're hearing part of Scene 2 right now. I'm actually really excited about this music because Emilie just sent me a draft of the text for Scene 7, which occurs at the top of the second act, and it's going to be a bit like this, except taken to the next level. By now you'll have noticed the scene's obsessive fixation with these repeating high A's on the piano. I'm here to tell you that, no, they do not change or go away before the main part of the scene ends, except that the rhythmic patterns become a bit more complex. Now, while my music doesn't rely on repetition, I'm trying not to be afraid to repeat material where I think it's warranted. In fact, I'm using it as a vital narrative device in this scene. Emilie was actually here in Halifax a week or two ago, and we got together and talked about a lot of interesting things. And one of these was the idea that we have as a musical culture that good music is always goal-oriented. Classical music of all kinds takes you on a journey from the opening theme through a development section into some sort of conclusion. Even in pop music, verses always progress towards a refrain. A DJ will arrange their musical selections to build tension and create moments of release on the dance floor, just like the harmonic progressions in early opera. But in this scene, I'm experimenting with something that I also admire in the work of a lot of other composers, and that is to create a moment and hold it for an extended period of time. But in a larger context, you can also interpret this scene as building a huge amount of tension that's released very slowly and peacefully in Scene 3. Check out my first video if you want a reminder of what that scene sounds like. So, what is this prolonged, tense, kind of sinister moment? Well, as I've alluded to previously, this is the scene where our main character Lucy, ready or not, takes the first step toward mandatory parenthood. We see her waiting outside the doctor's office, uncertainly reading a propagandic informational pamphlet about the fertility procedure she's about to undergo. The words celebrate the victories that her society has won against the radioactive fallout that would otherwise threaten their existence. Finally, she's admitted to the sterile doctor's office to be impregnated in a joyless, routine operation. To us, it's a sobering illustration of how this character's body, her very life, is not her own. She, and presumably everyone like her, is being used by this coldly rational system in the name of some supposedly greater good. As far as plans to save humanity go, this one comes at a hell of a cost. I've talked a lot about finding the right musical colors to illustrate this story. In this scene, I've illustrated the quiet horror of what's going on by playing against the gravitational pull of these omnipresent repeating high notes. There are these chords in the left hand that, when they're orchestrated, will ultimately sound like breathing, in and out, as if Lucy is standing there trying to stay calm. But I've made these chords very purposefully dissonant with the repeating high notes. That is, these chords contain the wrongest notes, as if to illustrate Lucy's humanity quietly going against the grain of the relentless clockwork pulse of the society that tries to control her. So I'm engaging with all of this as I come to the end of Act 1, where our characters rediscover a part of their humanity in a very touching and somewhat surprising way. This week, I'm going to jump into Scene 7, which occurs at the top of Act 2. It's very similar to the scene I just discussed, except that Lucy begins to express a lot more self-doubt as we see the first inkling of what's going to be, at least for her, a really terrible realization. On that particularly dissonant note, thank you for watching. Please follow us, and we'll see you next time when I talk about what happens in the final scene of Act 1.